Welcome back to The Critique. This submission is a detailed, highly critical take on the decline of the body positivity movement, arguing that the fast adoption of GLP-1 drugs by celebrities like Amy Schumer and Lizzo basically exposes a profound hypocrisy.
And that thesis is just incredibly strong. But to really make it hit with maximum impact, we need to talk about focus and structure right away.
Okay, so to maximize the impact of the central thesis, the exposure of body positivity hypocrisy via weight loss shortcuts, the scope of the material needs significant tightening.
Exactly. The piece starts with this fantastic investigative energy. It lands these really powerful blows.
Yeah, with concrete, specific examples. Finding evidence like Amy Schumer deleting her entire Instagram history from before her weight loss, or Meghan Trainor changing her lyric from "I ain't no size 2" to "I got some new boobs."
Right.
That's the kind of detail that's just so compelling. It's hard to argue with.
It is. That's the engine of the whole piece. It's laser focused on that moral flip from these advocates. But the problem is the discussion then expands way, way beyond that.
It really does. It starts to dilute the power of that engine.
We start getting into these, vast media analyses.
Right, like the long segments on the desexualization of female MCU heroes, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, or even the hypermasculinity of actors like Chris Hemsworth and The Rock.
And then it goes into critiques of DEI casting in video games like Spider-Man or animated shows like Velma.
All interesting topics. For sure, the author clearly has a lot to say about them.
Oh, absolutely. But the link between the core thesis, that GLP-1 drugs expose this moral flaw, and all these other media critiques feels, tenuous at best. It risks becoming just a list of cultural grievances.
Instead of that surgical strike against the body positivity spokespeople.
Exactly. You lose the thread.
So some might argue that these things are all connected, right? That the failure of body positivity sort of leads to these other cultural trends. If you're doing a big cultural critique, why limit it?
That's a fair question. But when your court argument is this explosive, you want every single sentence to advancing that central indictment. The goal has to be structural clarity.
So every detour has to lead directly back to the celebrity hypocrisy.
It has to. So the suggestion is, if that broader media critique isn't absolutely essential to proving the moral transition of the celebrities, it should be seriously condensed or just cut.
Okay, give me an example.
Take the comparison between the obese characters in WALL-E, which the author correctly frames as warning, and the character in that Disney short Reflect, who is presented as like a beacon of courage.
Right.
It's a fascinating point about media evolution, but it pulls the reader miles away from why Amy Schumer deleted her photos. You just diffuse all the energy you built up.
I see. And it's the same with that deep dive on Victoria's Secret reversing its inclusivity marketing after losing, nearly $1.5 billion?
Yes, that fact is incredibly powerful for showing the business failure of the movement, but it distracts from the individual moral failure of the celebrity.
Which is the core of the piece.
It is. If you want the reader to feel the full weight of Meghan Trainor changing her lyrics, you can't immediately pivot to talking about The Rock's physique. Recenter it. Make it almost exclusively about that moral transition, that lack of accountability that came with an easy way out.
Okay, so once the structure is tightened, the scope is clear, we can really look at the engine of the piece, the substance of that moral critique.
Absolutely. And with the scope defined, we can zoom in on the claims themselves, specifically how the piece deals with the biggest counterargument you're going to get.
The health defense.
The health defense, bolstering the logical foundation of the hypocrisy claim, requires actively engaging with, rather than dismissing, the counterarguments that focus on health and personal motivation.
Yeah, the argument right now leans very heavily on just labeling the celebrity flip as pure hypocrisy or a cope.
Right, but it even admits for a second that losing weight is healthy. It says something like, it is healthier to not be substantially overweight, so good on them in that sense. But then it just rushes right past that point.
And that's the crucial weakness.
Huge missed opportunity. Because by just skipping past the idea that maybe, just maybe, they genuinely wanted to be healthier, the critique looks a little rigid.
So how does acknowledging the health angle actually help? Wouldn't that weaken the hypocrisy charge?
No, it does the opposite. It makes the charge even more devastating. If you grant them the most charitable interpretation that this is all about health, you can then turn around and analytically dismantle the entire moral framework they built their careers on.
I see. So if health is the main concern now,
Then what were the years spent campaigning against weight shame and for healthy at any size? Were those years damaging, disingenuous? It shows the weakness in the original philosophy, not just their current actions.
That's a much more powerful critique. It shifts from their hypocrites Mao to their entire platform was flawed from the start.
Yes, you use their actions to prove it. Let's look at Amy Schumer's defense. She said something vague like, wishing you strength and self-love on whatever path you're on.
Right, followed by the observation that she deleted years of her Instagram photos.
And the photo deletion is the forensic evidence. That's what you need to focus on. Analyze why that statement is such an inadequate response.
It's a complete evasion.
Total evasion. She doesn't reckon with the brand she built around the very body image she just erased. The photo purge says so much more about the sincerity of her original platform than any of her current, Hallmark card platitudes.
And we see it with Mindy Kaling, too. She claimed she was just eating what she wanted, just less of it.
And you have to probe that inconsistency. If GLP-1 drugs work by suppressing appetite, making you want less, then her statement, while maybe technically true, is completely sidestepping the mechanism that allowed her to abandon her size acceptance brand.
The argument should press that point.
Press it hard. Analyze the idea that if the only thing stopping her from conforming to Hollywood standards was her own appetite, then her advocacy was always conditional. It wasn't a moral stance on body types, it was just based on her inability to control her hunger.
Okay, that level of logical rigor is absolutely key. So let's talk about delivery, the tone. It's aggressive. And that's fine for a specific audience. But our next point is that refining the tone by reducing personal attacks will increase the material's intellectual credibility.
The voice should stay sharp, it should stay critical, but the language needs to serve the evidence, not get in its way.
And right now, it sometimes resorts to, pretty charged language, calling people a bimbo Hollywood moron, buffoons, or describing The View as that shitty show.
And that's the issue.
But in a cultural critique, doesn't a little bit of that snark help convey the author's point of view, their frustration? Are we risking losing the voice if we take it all out?
I don't think so. Not if you replace ad hominem snark with analytical snark. The danger with the current approach is that it lets a reader dismiss the author as just being emotional or angry, instead of seeing the reasoned, evidence-based argument that's there.
And it overshadows the really strong evidence that's already in the piece.
Exactly. Like the legal claims against Lizzo for fat-shaming her own dancers, or the hard numbers on the financial failure of Victoria's Secret's Inclusivity pivot.
Those facts are way more powerful than an insult.
So much more. The suggestion is to keep that sharp, biting edge, but shift the intensity from personal attacks to just a rigorous deconstruction of the contradiction. You want the reader to leave thinking, wow, that analysis was undeniable, not, wow, that writer really hates those celebrities.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Let's use Lizzo as a specific example.
With Lizzo, the critique should focus intensely on the contradiction. The 2023 lawsuit claiming a hostile work environment that included fat-shaming her dancers versus her entire public brand.
That contrast is devastating on its own.
It is. If you lead with an insult, a reader might just think you're being bitter. But if you lead with that factual contradiction, the evidence just speaks for itself. The insult becomes unnecessary.
Same thing for criticizing the host of The View. Focus on the behavioral contradiction.
Yes, they were lecturing America about self-love while simultaneously participating in the Hollywood pressure cooker. They were conforming to the very beauty standards they claimed to be against.
That contradiction, that cognitive dissonance, is the weak point to attack. But recap, we're really looking to transform a strong opinion piece into a vociferous tone. An undeniable analytical indictment.
Exactly. And to do that, there are three key areas. First, tighten the scope. Get rid of or reframe those tangential media critiques. Keep the focus locked on the GLD-1 and celebrity hypocrisy angle.
Second, deepen that moral critique. You have to engage with the health argument counter-narrative and use their current actions to expose the flaws in their original body positivity philosophy.
And third, refine the tone. Shift the intensity from just insults and personal attacks towards a really rigorous deconstruction of the evidence. And the material already has fantastic evidence. Schumer's photo deletion, Trainor's lyric change, those are brilliant foundational points.
Right. Making these changes will turn this piece into something far more robust and, frankly, more persuasive. It has all the right ingredients. It just needs that final bit of refinement.
It's a really exciting piece. We'd love to read the revision.
We invite you to submit your revised work for a follow-up critique anytime.